Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Last segment of the evening. James out west, Pat the Stat Guy, KDUS 1060 Phoenix. All right, so AFC, Kansas City, Baltimore. We've talked about it all year. We felt like, especially you, have been pounding this drum about just doesn't feel like it's the Kansas City Chiefs year. And then, they ended up still having a good record, a really good record. Ended up, winning some ugly games. We said, oh, my goodness, what if they start winning ugly games?
Yeah.
And here we are playing at Baltimore. First time on the road for them in an AFC Championship game under the Pat Mahomes era. What say you, my friend?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is hard. Again, like I've been going off feel this whole playoffs and it doesn't feel like Kansas City's year and it feels like the Ravens' year. And here we are with them playing each other. And I'm going to go off of, I'm switching it up. I'm not going to go off of the whole, I'm not buying into the hype. I mean, I believe in the Ravens. My God, the Ravens are really good. But I have now gone against Patrick Mahomes 2 weeks in a row, and he's made me pay for it. So I believe, how they have playoff Jimmy in the Miami Heat? I think there's a playoff Patrick. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, they're a different beast in the playoffs. They step it up. And, him being away, I think he embraces that stuff. He obviously did in this last game. They threw snowballs at him at the end of the game, and he was smiling. He was loving it. You know what I mean? He likes that us against them kind of challenge. And, again, he's 39-11 away. So everyone going, oh, Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, they've never played an away game. You know what I mean? And everyone thought that was going to be a big factor. But then they also throw out the stat, the kid's 38-11 away in road games, and it's the best in NFL history. Well, he won again, and now it's 39-11. So I'm not going to pick against Patrick Mahomes. I just can't do it. So I'm picking the Chiefs. And again, I don't want to see two Harbaughs win.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So I like
and
what
also,
your thought process is.
Who are the script writers' favorite team?
Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Like you said, somebody said it. I don't know how to give them credit, but they said they want to see Kelsey and Swift kissing under confetti or something like that.
Yeah, that's what the script writers are writing in there. They want to see that.
And it could happen.
They said the NFL wants to see, Kelsey and Swift kissing under confetti.
So two things with this. One, the snowball thing. That's hilarious. Back in the day, in the 80s, that used to happen a lot. In Cleveland, specifically with Denver, there were stories about fans. Now, obviously, we don't condone this, but it was the 80s. It was a different world. Putting D batteries inside the snowballs and throwing them to where the players were told to leave your helmets on the sideline.
That's crazy.
They had a rivalry. But back to the rivalry thing, this kind of feels like when everybody would go against Brady. This is the year that Brady and Belichick aren't going to get it done. And then they would win. Oh, this isn't the year they're going to, everybody bet against Tom. And then you learned you just can't bet against Tom.
Yes.
This is where we're at with Pat.
Yeah.
With Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, I should have known earlier.
Bet against Patrick Mahomes.
We should have known that already. That's the problem.
Until otherwise shown.
But again, I did write down some stats. And, I think I did. I bought into the narrative this isn't the same old Kansas City Chiefs team that we're used to. And they really aren't. They aren't. But that doesn't mean they can't win games, right? So, I've got, passing yards from last year to this year for each team, right? So Baltimore last year, 178.8 passing per game. This year, 213. So they are a better passing team. They, what?
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, 35 yards extra per game, whatever. And then, the Kansas City Chiefs, 298 per game last year to 246. So they aren't getting as many yards. They do pass more than Baltimore. But then you go to rushing from last year, Baltimore 160 per game, and then this year 156, and that's first in the league. So they are the best rushing team in the league. And the Chiefs 104 this year. Last year doesn't really matter. But either way, I guess I'll give it 115 last year, 104 this year. But so you do look at it and you look at those numbers and you go, man, obviously Baltimore's being the number one running team and Kansas City's Chiefs kind of woes against the run that we just saw against the Bills. That's when you think about the stats, you go Ravens, I want to pick the Ravens. But again, I just can't pick against Pat Mahomes for the third week in a row. So
I agree. What you just said, though, about that running situation is the X factor of the game. Chris Jones mentioned it right after the game in his post conference, right out on the field about we gave up 182 yards rushing to this team. We got to figure it out before next week. Because look at what Baltimore did. 229 last week or against Houston, 229 yards. It's Lamar, it's Gus, it's Dalvin Cook got some play. Melvin Gordon, they've got a plethora of guys. Justice Hill,
right?
They have 6 running backs, including Lamar, that all touch the ball.
Right, and obviously, I don't have the number of how many rushing yards they gave up against Josh Allen and the Bills, but they're playing the two deadliest weapons in the NFL in Josh Allen and then Lamar Jackson 2 weeks in a row, and they did not do that great against Josh Allen and that run game.
Josh had 66 yards rushing.
And he looked just amazing every time he ran the ball. And so, like, you imagine what Lamar and that Ravens team, who are the number one rushing team, will do against Kansas City. But again, there's guys you can't count out, teams you can't count out, and like Pat Mahomes is that guy.
Yep. So I guess I agree with you. Obviously, last week we did a show, podcast, got it out on Spotify and all of that because we were off with Martin Luther King and all that stuff. But we talked about it. We had 4 games. We both went 3. We were 3-1. The one game we missed, obviously, was a Kansas City Buffalo, which has got us going with Kansas City. So we have the same picks, Kansas City and San Francisco. Sorry that we're not disagreeing with it, but that is what is probably should happen.
I'm kind of surprised you picked Kansas City, but yeah.
Well, I'm definitely not going to go with the Ravens. I mean, out of spite.
Okay.
Out of spite, I'm not going to go with the Ravens. I mean, Lamar is a fantastic quarterback. He's a tremendous athlete. He's a really good human being. He's everything you'd want in a franchise quarterback to have, and he doesn't have the Super Bowl yet, which would be defining for him, of course. But I don't want to see it happen.